January 30th, 1911. Taal Volcano erupted without warning, killing 1,300 people in minutes. What witnesses didn't know was that for weeks before the explosion, small earthquakes had been rattling the region. Scientists have just discovered the same pattern is happening right now. Advanced seismic monitoring reveals that the current Philippine earthquake swarm is creating the exact conditions that preceded Taal's deadliest eruption. Each tremor is fracturing rock around the magma chamber, opening pathways for explosive gas release. But this time, the earthquake activity is 10 times more intense than 1911. If history is repeating itself, how much time is left before Taal explodes? When earthquake patterns match those before the deadliest volcanic disaster in Philippine history, should we expect the same outcome? And why are modern scientists more terrified of this eruption than their predecessors were 114 years ago? The Philippines isn't just sitting on the ring of fire, it's trapped inside it. 4 massive tectonic plates, Philippine Sea, Eurasian, Pacific, and Sunda, collide beneath the archipelago, creating one of Earth's most complex fault systems. This tectonic configuration is both creator and destroyer. The very forces that built these islands are now threatening to tear them apart. The Philippine Mobile Belt, as geologists call it, is a zone of intense deformation where these plates converge. This creates a geological paradox. Constant movement builds the islands while simultaneously subjecting them to some of Earth's most violent natural disasters. In October 2025 alone, the Philippines has already experienced 2 major earthquakes, a magnitude 6.9 in Cebu that killed 79 people and a devastating 7.4 magnitude quake in Mindanao, followed by a 6.8 aftershock just hours later. But what's happening now is different. It's not just the individual earthquakes, it's their pattern, frequency and relationship to volcanic systems that has scientists concerned. The current earthquake swarm isn't random. It's following a deadly historical template. Normal seismic activity in the Philippines typically means around 100 measurable earthquakes yearly, with perhaps 20 causing notable damage. But 2025 has shown something alarming. Microquake activity has doubled, with unusual clustering in regions that rarely show such concentrated activity. Every few days, somewhere in the Philippines shakes, a geological heartbeat that seems to be accelerating. Dr. Teresito Bacolcol, director of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, explains the danger. Each quake relieves tension in one area, but redistributes stress elsewhere. It's like squeezing a balloon. The pressure just moves around. What we're seeing now is pressure being systematically transferred toward Taal's magma chamber. What's truly concerning scientists is the pattern recognition. Historical data shows that seismic swarms often precede major volcanic events. And right now, 3 major fault systems, the Manila Trench, Philippine Trench, and West Valley Fault, are all approaching critical stress points simultaneously, something that hasn't happened in recorded history. January 30th, 1911 wasn't a surprise attack from the Earth. It was the final move in a month-long seismic chess game. The historical timeline reveals a chilling progression. Small tremors began rattling the Batangas region in December 1910. Throughout January 1911, seismic activity steadily increased in both frequency and intensity. Then, at 5:30 a.m. on January 30th, Taal erupted with catastrophic violence. Weather Bureau Director Miguel Cedera Maso documented the precise sequence. Earthquake swarms progressively fractured the volcanic system, creating pathways for superheated water to interact with magma. The result was a frito-magmatic explosion, one of the deadliest eruption types, that killed over 1,300 people. What made the 1911 eruption so lethal wasn't just its explosive power, it was the specific eruption type, frito-magmatic. When water interacts with magma, it flash vaporizes into steam, expanding 1,000 times its original volume in seconds. The 1911 eruption sent pyroclastic surges, clouds of superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments racing across Taal Lake at speeds reaching 673 kilometers per hour. Survivors described a scene of apocalyptic horror. The black cloud shot up into the sky around 2:30 a.m., marking the peak of the eruption. That cloud marked a hot blast of steam and gases that travelled down the slopes of the volcano, accompanied by a shower of superheated mud and sand. The blast was so powerful it was heard in Manila, 60 kilometers away. The 1911 eruption permanently altered Taal's landscape. Before the eruption, the crater contained several separate lakes of different colours: green, yellow, and red. After the catastrophe, these were replaced by a single large crater lake, the same lake we see today. Most alarming to modern scientists is that this wasn't a freak occurrence. Geological records show identical seismic sequences preceded Taal's other major eruptions in 1754, 1873, and 1885. Each time, earthquake swarms served as the trigger mechanism, fracturing pathways for the deadly interaction of water and magma. What's happening right now makes 1911 look like a gentle warning. PHIVOLCS has recorded 33 volcanic earthquakes at Taal in just the past week, including 10 volcanic tremors lasting up to 298 minutes, almost 5 hours of continuous seismic activity. For comparison, the 1911 eruption was preceded by approximately 30 tremors over an entire month. We're seeing that same level of activity every day. On October the 26th, 2025, Taal already experienced 3 minor eruptions, 1 phreatic and 2 phreatomagmatic events. These smaller blasts are warning signs that the system is becoming increasingly unstable. Sulfur dioxide emissions have reached 436 tons per day, while monitoring equipment has detected significant ground deformation around the main crater. Each of these metrics precisely mirrors the pattern observed before the 1911 disaster, but at a dramatically accelerated and intensified scale. The recent major earthquakes in the region, the magnitude 6.9 Cebu earthquake on September the 30th, and the magnitude 7.4 Mindanao earthquake on October the 10th, have created a domino effect, transferring stress throughout the Philippine fault system directly toward Taal. Modern scientific instruments reveal something the 1911 observers couldn't see. Earthquake energy is transferring directly into Taal's magma chamber. Each tremor creates microfractures in the surrounding rock, building pressure like a geological pressure cooker. When that pressure finds release, and it always does, the result will be catastrophic. Dr. Bacolcol warns, if there is a sudden increase in RSM and volcanic tremors, this indicates hot fluids, either gases or magma, are flowing and possibly interacting with groundwater. This interaction is precisely what triggers phreatomagmatic eruptions, the exact type that caused the 1911 disaster. What's different from 1911 is both the scale and the scientific understanding. The current earthquake activity is 10 times more intense. The entire Philippine fault system is under stress, not just localized sections. And perhaps most critically, 24 million people now live within 100 kilometers of Taal, compared to just a fraction of that number in 1911. Scientists have discovered something terrifying. Earthquakes don't just trigger volcanoes randomly, they create cascading failures throughout entire volcanic systems. The chain reaction mechanism works like this. First, the Philippine fault system fractures, transferring stress to volcanic systems. This increases pressure in magma chambers, causing rock around volcanic conduits to fracture. These fractures allow water to interact with magma, creating explosive eruption potential. And finally, the regional destabilization can activate additional volcanoes in sequence. We're already seeing evidence of this domino pattern. Canlaon volcano has experienced 4 major eruptions since June 2024, following seismic activity. Mayon volcano is showing increased thermal activity that correlates directly with recent earthquake swarms. and Taal's system demonstrates direct evidence of earthquake-triggered pressure changes. The unprecedented threat is that historical precedent shows one major earthquake can trigger multiple volcanic eruptions across the Philippines. The 2025 swarm isn't affecting just one system, it's destabilizing the entire volcanic arc. Recent scientific observations have revealed that the previous major eruptions of Taal in 1754, 1911 and 2020 were all preceded by similar earthquake patterns. But there's a critical difference. The 2025 swarm shows seismic energy 10 times greater than any previously recorded sequence. PHIVOLCS has established timeline predictions based on historical data. If the Manila Trench ruptures, it could trigger a magnitude 7.2 plus earthquake. The cascade effect means earthquake energy would reach volcanic systems within 15 to 45 minutes. And based on historical patterns, full eruption response would follow within 24 to 72 hours of the initial trigger. This means that if the current pattern continues accelerating, we're potentially looking at a catastrophic eruption within days, not months or years. If Taal erupts today, 24 million people have minutes, not hours, to react. Unlike 1911's rural setting, Taal now sits in the heart of one of Asia's most densely populated regions. Metro Manila, Cavite, Laguna, and Batangas form a mega-urban complex with no historical precedent for volcanic evacuation. The 2025 scenario is exponentially more dangerous than 1911 for several reasons. Population density around Taal is now 800 times higher. Modern infrastructure, power grids, telecommunications, transportation networks are all vulnerable to volcanic damage. Modern buildings weren't designed for volcanic ash loading, which can cause roof collapses even at significant distances from the eruption. Perhaps most concerning is the warning gap. Current monitoring can detect volcanic unrest. But earthquake-triggered eruptions happen too fast for traditional evacuation protocols. When earthquakes force volcanoes to erupt, the timeline collapses from days to minutes. Traditional warning signs like ground swelling, gas emissions, and harmonic tremors usually develop gradually. But earthquake-triggered eruptions can skip these warning phases entirely, leaving a response window as narrow as 15 to 30 minutes for communities within 10 kilometers. The current PHIVOLCS, Alert Level 1 for Taal, indicates abnormal conditions, but it doesn't capture the exponentially increasing risk from the earthquake swarm influence. The system is designed to monitor volcanic activity in isolation, not its dangerous dance with regional seismic patterns. This leaves emergency managers with an impossible dilemma. Order mass evacuations based on scientific models and risk economic disruption and public panic, or wait for more certain indicators and potentially sacrifice thousands of lives. With earthquake swarms building and Taal showing 1911 pattern responses, scientists are haunted by one question: are we witnessing the setup for the deadliest volcanic disaster in modern Philippine history? The data is clear, the patterns match. The question isn't if, but when. The evidence synthesis is undeniable. The 2025 seismic activity perfectly mirrors the pre-1911 sequence. Current earthquake energy is 10 times stronger than any historical precedent. The entire Philippine volcanic arc is responding to tectonic stress, and 24 million people now live in the potential impact zone. Every earthquake brings Taal closer to the eruption threshold. Every week of continued swarm activity increases the probability of catastrophic release. The 1911 pattern took 30 days to complete. We're already at day 90 of the current sequence, with acceleration rather than diminishment. Will the earthquake swarm trigger the eruption before monitoring systems can provide adequate warning? How many more tremors can Taal's magma chamber absorb before it reaches critical failure? And when the mountain finally responds to these earthquake triggers, will anyone be ready for what comes next? The clock is ticking. The pattern is clear. and Taal is awakening. This has been Earth Attacks, bringing you the hidden connections between Earth's most powerful forces. Subscribe now to receive real-time updates on this developing crisis. Hit the notification bell to be the first to know when Taal reaches critical status. Your awareness could save lives. Share this video with anyone in the affected region. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and remember, knowledge is your best defense against Earth's deadliest attacks.